Donald Trump just launched a full-scale takeover of Washington, D.C., and Representative Jamie Raskin is tearing him to shreds because of it. After seizing control of the police and flooding the city with National Guard troops, Trump has effectively turned the Capitol into his own personal police state. And now, Raskin is calling out this authoritarian power grab for exactly what it is, and exposing the dangerous lies behind it. So keep watching as we break down Raskin's brutal takedown and the alarming reality of Trump's DC occupation. Now, just like everything Donald Trump does, this takeover is so unpopular even with his own staff that people began leaking his authoritarian plans before they could even begin. Because as the nation went to sleep last night, local newscasters began sounding the alarm that the Trump administration was planning both something big and very dangerous.
News that we've just received into our newsroom. So we're getting this information from multiple sources, both with Mayor Bowser and with MPD, telling us that as of 6 o'clock this evening, they strongly believe, sources both within the mayor's office and within Metro Police Department, that President Trump, come tomorrow, will deploy the National Guard along the streets of D.C. That is the information that is now coming into our newsroom about what is likely to happen tomorrow at that news conference.
Despite the warnings being put out, there was nothing the city of Washington could do to prevent Trump from storming the town. Unlike in LA, where he at least had to put up with court battles and major protests, the government has the right to enact control over certain aspects of Washington, D.C. And in fact, Trump explained this in his press conference this morning, where he claimed that he was invading the city to protect the people.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly.
Trump claims that he had to take over the city to protect people from crime, but this is just complete nonsense. Our nation's capital is not some giant slum like he claims. It actually has been seeing a major decrease in crime rates over the last few years, which MSNBC was bold enough to show next to Trump throughout his entire sham of a press conference.
And, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs.
Instead of addressing the facts, Trump just read a list of cities from around the world with high crime rates as if that somehow means that DCs are bad as well. This is literally part of his justification for putting a city under a police occupation, and it doesn't even make any sense. Donald Trump is stationing troops in our nation's capital and forcing their police force to now report to his administration, instead of the democratically elected City Council of DC. And while the government has special powers to take control in DC, Trump also floated the idea of trying this out in other cities. Because just today, he claimed that other cities across the United States have too much crime for their own good, and that he might have to do something about that.
It is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say.
Now, while Trump has been fumbling to explain his ever-increasing authoritarian moves, Democrats across the country have been calling out these actions. In fact, Mayor Bowser of D.C. had this to say about Trump's takeover today.
We know that access to our democracy is tenuous. That is why you have heard me and many Washingtonians before me advocate for full statehood for the District of Columbia. We are American citizens. Our families go to war. We pay taxes and we uphold the responsibilities of citizenship. And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past, that we're totally surprised.
But the best attack against Trump today has come from Congressman Jamie Raskin. Raskin not only calls out Trump's actions for the dictator power play that they are, but he also points out for years Trump has claimed that he didn't stop the January 6th rally in DC because he can't control the National Guard. Well, after occupying both LA and DC, it's pretty clear that Trump can do whatever he wants with the National Guard. And that means that he supported the January 6th insurrection the entire time.
Well, he's referring to a provision in the DC Home Rule Act, which allows him to declare a police emergency relating to a federal matter. They haven't defined what the emergency is, especially with crime rates at a 30-year low in the District of Columbia. And he's deployed the National Guard. At least I'm happy to see that he acknowledges he has the power to activate the National Guard. That was what he refused to do 4.5 years ago when the Capitol and his own vice president and Congress were under attack by the mob violence that he unleashed against us. And he sat on his hands for many hours and then later asserted he somehow didn't have the authority to deploy the National Guard. That was a real emergency. This is not a real emergency. He was not asked to send in the National Guard or take over the police by the House or the Senate or the mayor or the DC Council. This looks to me like an emergency which is manufactured because of a public relations crisis relating to the Epstein file. He doesn't want to release the Epstein file, so he wants everybody to look in another direction.
Now, thankfully, there isn't any real trouble going on in the nation's capital right now. Instead of fighting waves of violence like Trump promised, many of his troops are just appearing to block parts of the city with literally nothing else to do. Look at how bored these guys look. What's most likely going to happen is what we saw in California, where Trump waited for people to protest his takeover and then used the National Guard like pawns to attack civilians. But that would be a mess completely of his own making. Donald Trump is interfering with a democratically elected city government so that he can try to create a crisis, one that he's hoping will knock the Epstein files out of the news. But while all of this goes down, a real crisis actually did break out today, because in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, there was a large explosion at a steel plant, which has left one person dead so far and several trapped in the debris of the mill, according to initial reports. And just like the flooding in Texas or massive tornadoes in the Midwest this year, Donald Trump continues to ignore real crises that put Americans in danger so that he can make up issues that catapult him into being a dictator. Instead of launching an immediate response to today's explosion, Trump has spent the entire day droning on incoherently in press conferences. Whether violent or not, the President of the United States should not be stripping states or cities of their democratically elected rights and flooding them with soldiers and National Guardsmen. Donald Trump continues to push ever closer to destroying the office of the president and replacing it with a full-on dictatorship. We all need to stand with Washington, D.C. in the coming weeks. And to help spread the word, please be sure to leave a like and share this video.